received a new cabinet portfolio as the Minister of Project Management, Youth Affairs and Southern Development. Excellency, Sagala Ratnaika. Let me invite His Excellency Sitana Lakshmina Raidu. He is the Minister of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, International Trade of the Government of Mauritius. He has served as an economist at the Ministry of Commerce and Industry from 1973 to 1980. And he has assumed the position of the Commissioner of Trade Fairs. He was the chairman of the State Bank Mauritius from 1998 to 2001. Excellency Sitana, please, sir, join us on the dais. Let me welcome Excellency H.M. Mustafa Kamal. He is currently the Minister of Planning in Bangladesh. He is a member of Jatiya Sangsad in the Bangladeshi Parliament, and he represents the constituency of Komila 10, which falls in Chittagong division. Mr. Mustafa Kamal was the former director of the Cricket Club of Bangladesh, Abahani Limited, and is also a former president of the BCB and International Cricket Council. His Excellency, Minister Mustafa Kamal, join us on the dais, sir. And we have His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmad Al-Zayadi. He was appointed as the Minister of Climate Change and Environment for the government of United Arab Emirates in 2016. Previously, His Excellency served as a permanent representative of the UAE to the International Renewable Energy Agency from 2010 to 2017. He also was the Director of Department of Energy and Climate Change within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs from 2010 to 2016. Excellency Dr. Thani Al-Zayadi. May I now first invite Minister Sagala Ratnaike from Sri Lanka to come and give his view. Ministers will speak for possibly 10-12 minutes each, and at the end of it, there will be question and answer.
His Excellency Sitana Lakshmina Raidu, His Excellency Mustafa Kamal, His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmad Al-Zayadi, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. I consider it a privilege to have been given an opportunity to address you at this conference. I'm very happy to be associated with the third edition of the Indian Ocean Conference, of which Sri Lanka hosted the second edition in Colombo. Sri Lanka is excited to be on board with this initiative and its theme of building regional architectures. The long-term objective of this initiative is to ensure oceanic good governance. The aim is to ensure the management of the world's oceans and their resources in ways that keep our oceans healthy, productive, safe, secure, and resilient, while strengthening connectivity and economic activity. In this context, the importance of building regional architectures to ensure oceanic good governance in the Indian Ocean region gains greater salience. The end of the Cold War witnessed a shift in global attention to the IOR in strategic and political terms. The Indian Ocean region has become the hub of intense global activity over the last few decades, underpinned by the growth of the Asian economies. The sea lanes in the Indian Ocean are considered among the most strategically important in the world, with over 80% of the world's seaborne trade in oil transiting through the Indian Ocean choke points. The most important trade routes of the world pass through this region. In particular, we are witnessing the rise of maritime Asia due to the strategic importance of the Indian Ocean. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I want to place before you some important issues which I believe require collective reflection. Enhanced economic cooperation in the Indian Ocean region, including amongst the diverse littoral economies in South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Africa, is essential for greater integration of the region. All economic indicators of the region have more than doubled during the past 2 decades. The region's economic upturn is being driven by several factors, including the revival of the historic maritime links fueled by global value chain trade centered on East Asia, the rise of BRICS economies as growth poles in the world economy, increased investment in port infrastructure, consolidation in the shipping sector towards larger and more efficient ships, falling barriers to trade and investment, the growth of the middle class, and the winds of change in the sphere of technology. With the right policies and with the correct perspective on oceanic good governance, the economies in the region are well placed to capitalize further on these changes and prosper. This should happen at global, regional, and national levels, which would facilitate economic convergence and prosperity in the Indian Ocean region. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the Indian Ocean brings together peoples of 3 continents and constitutes a third of the world's ocean space. The diversity and vastness of the Indian Ocean presents opportunities and challenges that the littoral states need to factor in so as to ensure peace and security of the region. These opportunities and challenges are multifaceted and require a regional architecture that addresses multiple issues both at a sub-regional level and at a wider Indian Ocean level. We need to consider a multi-layered approach that promotes and protects the core values of ocean governance and addresses key issues impacting on our ocean in an effective manner. Freedom of navigation in the Indian Ocean has to be strengthened because it is vital to world and regional trade and critical to global energy security. We strongly believe that the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea is the foundation for a stable, rules-based regime at sea. Also, we note with concern the extent of sea blindness of coastal states. We, as a coastal state and an island, have limited visibility of our maritime surface picture. We rely extensively on transponder information such as AIS and VMS to map maritime activity around us. But the reality is that most dark vessels operate without activating transponder data. There's a need to develop maritime domain awareness, MDA technology, not only for our own national security interests, but also for better regional cooperation to detect illicit activity at sea. Many experts here on maritime affairs will acknowledge that the jurisdictional limitations on the high seas offer criminal networks a safe haven for illicit trafficking activity. The Indian Ocean has become the largest route for trafficking African heroin from the Makran coast to East Africa and South Asia. I had the privilege to host in Sri Lanka Home Ministers from Indian Ocean states, including Sri Hansraj Gangaram Ahi, Minister of State for Home Affairs in India, where we resolved to establish the Southern Route Partnership in October 2016. The ministers agreed with the Colombo Declaration and pledged to develop a regional mechanism to counter drug trafficking in the Indian Ocean. The SRP, with the support of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, has become the primary mechanism to coordinate counter-narcotics operations in the Indian Ocean region. The SRP by itself would not do. Criminal activities transcend national maritime boundaries and impact on all coastal states. It is imperative that we improve the maritime law enforcement capacity of Indian Ocean states to counter all forms of maritime crime and ensure the long arm of the law can dispense blue justice across the Indian Ocean. Similarly, there are shared obligations for maritime search and rescue and requirements for humanitarian assistance and disaster relief across the Indian Ocean. The case of the Malaysian Airlines MH370 allegedly disappearing over the Indian Ocean is a wake-up call to all Indian Ocean states on the urgent need to review search and rescue capabilities over the Indian Ocean. Many small states have very large search and rescue areas of responsibility. We need to have a more integrated approach for search and rescue cooperation. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, all Indian Ocean states need to commit more aggressively to achieve UN Sustainable Development Goal 14, life below water. The marine environment impacted by climate change, pollution, and oceanic resource exploitation needs to be monitored and safeguarded. It is indispensable to global environmental security and regional food security. We need to take a more serious approach to illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, towards which Indian Ocean states have taken a lackluster approach driven by political imperatives. We, as many other coastal states, are facing the impacts of waste dumping in the Indian Ocean. Regional cooperation can make possible stronger transport and trade connectivity, not only through coordinated physical investments, but also harmonization of policies, rules, and procedures. Ultimately, an integrated Indian Ocean region market can emerge with economies of the scale necessary to compete in the international market. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the issues around the Indian Ocean are complex and require concerted effort by the littoral states to address the issues and take advantage of the opportunities that the ocean presents. At present, there are multiple Indian Ocean organizations and forums. However, in terms of achieving effective regional cooperation, there's still a long way to go. Therefore, what is the most suitable regional architecture that will focus on key issues, but also provide the necessary perspective of sub-regional dynamics that drives a coherent overall policy on ocean governance? We may need to consider a multi-layered approach, both in terms of division of thematic responsibilities and in terms of sub-regional interests within an overarching Indian Ocean framework of shared values and principles. There is no perfect fit on what regional architecture works best for such a vast ocean space. There are issues that can be addressed as a wider Indian Ocean community, and there are issues that can be dealt with more meaningfully at a thematic level or sub-regional level. It is about taking forward all of these strands of activity within an architecture based on shared values and principles founded upon the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. In my view, it is high time for us, the littoral states, to be masters of our own fate and the captains of our ship. There should be increased coordination, participation, and engagement by littoral states in determining how affairs are run in the Indian Ocean. Meaningful regional cooperation can help the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals. A single-minded focus on national strategies and actions has diverted attention from critical regional actions needed to promote energy, food, and water security-related SDGs, strengthen environmental sustainability, address climate change, and prevent natural disasters. Perhaps most importantly, regional cooperation can help build enough economic stakes in the region that promote peace and prosperity and substantially diminish the threat of aggression and war. We must also be alert to competing global interests that can impact on the Indian Ocean. Recently, as the ice caps melt in the North Pole, a Maersk container vessel operated for the first time an Arctic route this summer from Murmansk in Russia near Norway to Bering Strait near Alaska. If we are to achieve the full potential of the Indian Ocean, it is imperative that we as Indian Ocean states maintain the comparative advantage in a shared approach. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, Sri Lanka has a clear vision of what the country wants to be in the world today. It is repositioning itself to optimize its relationship with its neighbors and other partners, to leverage its geostrategic position and make it a hub in the Indian Ocean. To fully realize this potential, Sri Lanka is engaging in initiatives with regional players who have major economic stakes in the Indian Ocean. It is also pushing to further integrate with the world by undertaking reforms to facilitate trade and encourage productive foreign investments. Sri Lanka's strategy is to leverage investments to boost its industries such as tourism, expand its manufacturing base, and safeguard its main exports such as garments and tea. Accordingly, the Indian Ocean region plays a critical role in driving the global economy, and it will play an even more important role in the future. The Indian Ocean is central to deciding our common global future. The shared nature of the Indian Ocean needs to be recognized, and it is in our common interest to care, protect, and develop this shared space for mutual benefit. Maintaining peace and security in the Indian Ocean is a prerequisite for the development and growth of the region. It is the collective responsibility of the countries in this region and beyond to ensure that the Indian Ocean is better managed, safe, productive, and resilient through oceanic good governance. We have had 3 editions of IOC, a solid platform for dialogue. The discussion has been extensive. Let us now work towards the next stage, a plan for the way forward to achieve the good things that we talk about. Towards that, like Prime Minister Wickremesinghe suggested in his comments at the inaugural session yesterday, let's have intra-session working groups to work out the mechanics. Thank you, India Foundation. Thank you, Sri Ram Madhav Ji. And thank you, the government of Vietnam, for putting this conference together and for the hospitality afforded to us. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister has made some very important points, of which I will only point at one to begin with. He made a mention that we should have some kind of architecture at the regional and sub-regional level, and I think that is where one needs to begin. And I will leave it at that. I'm sure that India Foundation will go ahead and work on this and see how we can make it happen. Let me now invite His Excellency Sitana Lakshminaraidu to give his talk.
My colleague ministers, distinguished guests, let me first thank the Vietnamese government for its hospitality, and let me also congratulate India Foundation for the 3rd meeting of this Indian Ocean Conference. I was just listening to the various speakers yesterday and said that if the world stopped dreaming, there'll be no great future for this planet. So when thinkers, political thinkers, governments come with huge ideas that might look impossible to implement, then we have to think of one thing, that in 1957, the now EU was then the common market. The Treaty of Rome was signed in 57. No one thought that 50 years later, this common market will become this huge EU that is today on the verge of political integration. Dreams come true when it achieves a critical mass. And I think that the dream of Prime Minister Modi, the Sagar dream for the future of the region, whether it be the Road and Belt Initiative of President Xi in China, our first reaction is to say, how can this be? Because it looks like a Titanic project. And yet, I am sharing with you one thing today. And this is the experience, the small experience I've derived, and which I'll share with you today when it comes to regional integration, when it comes to ocean architecture, when it comes to living together and learning to live together. I believe that the post-colonial period of one market, one planet is over. That's my feeling. So what was termed globalization, the concept of one market, one planet, the concept of a one-size-fits-all approach of the World Trade Organization is over. It's over because it is no longer reflecting what the future of this planet is. Geopolitics is moving from one center to multi-centers, which we can't ignore. So this is probably where we have to acknowledge that the globalization approach, the global village approach hasn't worked. And the World Trade Organization today in Geneva is looking for a way of reinventing itself. But what is now becoming a very quick reality is the very strong commitment of countries to unite within one region. Who would have thought that Africa, 55 nations, would meet and would dream of one African continental free trade area? No one. And I had the pleasure of signing recently in Rwanda that Mauritius will join the Africa Free Trade Continental Area. We did it. And we are also signing very soon the trilateral trade agreement that comprises COMESA, SADC, and the EAC in Africa. This is a clear indication that the world is regionalizing itself. So within this global approach, I find the initiative of India to be something that we have to deal with, respect, and see how we can work it through. And we can't ignore also that there are various initiatives. One is from China, the OBOR initiative. Japan also is on a major initiative. All of them rotate under, I think, one beautiful concept. And I think Srimati Swaraj yesterday said it very well. We want interdependence and not dominance. First aspect, which I think is important. We who have lived the colonial period of the mighty and the weak, speaking of interdependence makes sense. Speaking of win-win situation where all players are winners is something which is new, which we have to respect also. And the fact that we are all thriving for peace, for stability, for security, for prosperity makes sense also. So this is why Mauritius is fully behind those initiatives. Because as a small island, we are compelled to open ourselves to the world. So probably today, I would rather not speak of what has been said, but share with you of things we can't ignore. It would not be in the interest of those huge projects that we don't try to hide under the carpet certain realities. And I would like to share this with you. One, sovereignty and territorial integrity. We should not forget that most of us come from the colonial period, that this proud nation, which is Vietnam, which through an incredible sense of courage, of commitment, managed to get oppressors out, that we all come from colonies and we need to be respected, and we need one thing, that our territory, our sovereignty is fully recognized and respected. In fact, any regional project that doesn't go in the sense of respect of national sovereignty and integrity will not go through. This is my feeling. One, we have to consider it, pay great attention to it, and not ignore it. One. Two, you know, this one-size-fits-all approach cannot work. The World Trade Organization managed through a few decades to dictate that we all have to follow one road. And we realize today that the one-size-fits-all approach will not work. For two reasons. One, in the group that we are speaking of, whether it be OBOR or whether it be SAGR, we are speaking of GDP per capita ranging from $400 to $40,000. The divide is huge. And we have to bear this in mind, that when we want to work together, we have to also take into consideration the fact that we are all not at a level playing field in terms of revenue. And third, and not least also, when it comes to one-size-fits-all, is that we are dealing with countries which are different. Small Mauritius, we are less than 2,000 square kilometers. And we are speaking of an organization where there will be huge countries behind it. China, India. So there also, I think that when we speak of working together, we have to acknowledge that the size of the countries and the weight of the countries are to be considered when we work out schemes to work together. So those are probably a few points I've taken up just to say that we should not try to hide below the carpet issues which we will have to deal with if we want the organization to succeed. Now, therefore, we have moved away from what I would call continental FTAs, like the EU, like the Africa CFTA. We are now developing the concept of ocean FTAs. I find this beautiful, that we are connected not by territories, but we are connected through the ocean. So this is what we are proposing today, is to say that all those who are connected through the oceans can work together in the interest of all and prosper. And I would like here to share with you what we are doing in Mauritius, which might maybe be of interest. I am presently chair of the Indian Ocean Commission that groups 5 countries in the region, namely Madagascar, Seychelles, Comores, Réunion, and Mauritius. I am also chairman of the contact group that was set up by the Security Council to fight piracy in Somalia. So I've been dealing a lot with the region. And small Mauritius, we have a problem. We are a middle-income group country stuck in the middle-income trap. And we are trying to move out of it. How? Through development of 3 new pillars, which I think coincide with what we want to do today. The 3 new pillars of the Mauritian economy for the 50 next years probably would be 1, the ocean economy, which we are speaking of. 2, the maritime hub development on the same basis as Dubai and Singapore. And number 3, the Africa story. We are African. Mauritius is part of the 55 states forming part of Africa. We've signed all the agreements you can dream of with Africa. So the 3 components have helped us to look deeper into 1, trade, and number 2, marine security. Number 1, trade. Mauritius can't survive without trade. No man is an island, no island is an ocean, so we have learned to open totally to the external world. And we are doing it through 2 ways. 1 is through the signing of bilateral FTAs, and 2, through working with governments on a G2G level. We are not fighting regional FTAs. They are there. We are committed to the Africa FTAs. We are committed also to the Sagar initiative. We are committed to the Obor initiative. But still we think that waiting for the whole thing to develop might take time. So what we are doing now is, number 1, working out FTAs. So we've signed the Africa continental FTA plus the trilateral FTA. And we've moved on the left to opening the door with countries that can contribute to the development of Africa. So we have presently negotiating with India, SECPA, which is a huge FTA, bilateral, India-Mauritius. We have finalized, since a few days also, an FTA with China, which would be the first free trade agreement between China and Africa. And we are also negotiating other FTAs to ensure that we, Mauritius, we start behaving like, how would you call it? A connection, a connecting link between those who want to invest and those who want investment. So this is the item 2, is G2G. Mauritius, we are working with countries in Africa because we don't have the means of working with all the 54. So we have G2G agreements with Ghana, with Ivory Coast, with Senegal, and recently with Kenya. We are moving ahead on a G2G agreements where both governments commit themselves to working together on project development. I'll take the case of the G2G, the Joint Commission with Kenya, which was held 3 weeks back, we are speaking of billions of dollars of investment in special economic zones. And what we are trying to do in Mauritius is to be the transmission belt between those who want to invest, investors, investment, finance, technology, channeled through the financial sector of Mauritius to the African countries. That's what we are doing what we are trying to do in terms of trade. We are not showing the way. We are just trying to survive and to develop in an environment which is not easy. This is trade. The second aspect is maritime security, because we speak of the ocean. Ocean means SDG 14. It means not only sustainable use of ocean resources, it also means protection of the marine ecosystem, which is our responsibility. Both go together. So what we have been doing is trying to contribute our own share to the whole thing. So in April this year, the Indian Ocean Commission with the Mauritian government and Brussels and the EU organized in Mauritius a maritime security conference that groups some 250 major players, countries and organizations. We did it, and we realized here also that when it comes to maritime security, there also we can't play the game of hide and seek. We realized how much, when we come, let us say, to the sustainable use of ocean resources, and I don't want to name and shame here today, but there are countries who are voluntarily not seeing that their own fishing companies are destroying the ocean. IUU, illegal fishing. The Indian Ocean where we are today is being plundered by companies, fishing companies, not recognized officially by their countries, but tolerated by their countries. So some countries are helping in the destruction of ocean resources and staying put. And we have to speak it out. That when we speak of sustainable use of the ocean, we have also to flow with the idea that we are responsible vis-à-vis the ocean in terms of preservation. Same thing when it comes to the preservation of the marine ecosystem. Easy to say, but climate change is there. And climate change, whether it be COP22, 23, 24, or the Green Fund, we are short of financial resources to ensure the survival of our ocean. Our ocean means it's a planetary gift that we've had from the Lord. So we have to protect it. And there again, what we are seeing is that in spite of what we are doing, pollution has reached levels never attained in this part of the world. We have to acknowledge it. Before cleaning, we have to acknowledge that there is dirt to be cleaned. And that's why when we speak of the marine ecosystem. Disaster management is something which is so crucial. That is our capacity to be prepared. For preparedness when it comes to meeting with disasters. Let us say a petrol spill in the ocean needs immediate action. So the whole idea of disaster management is being looked into a very superficial way. I need to say it. Superficial because disaster management is something where we need action and quick action. And for quick action to take place, there need to be exchange of info. If, let us say, in the Indian Ocean close to Mozambique, there is a problem there, it can be anything, we need to be in a position to deal with it quickly, efficiently. And here what we are seeing, I have to share with you, is that the large countries are making wishful proposals and commitments. In exchange of info is being kept secret by most of the big countries. So how can you, on one side, speaking of disaster management, and when it comes to exchange of info, some countries tell you, sorry, this is national security. So we need to know where we are standing when we speak of disaster management and of the need for action and the need also for exchange of info. Then my colleague, the minister from Sri Lanka, just spoke about it, drug trafficking. Drug trafficking in the Indian Ocean has reached level I've never seen before. I signed recently with the UNODC 2 agreements, one for AOC, one for Mauritius, to fight drug trafficking in the region. Drug trafficking and financial crimes work together. And I can tell you one thing, that we are very far from reaching a point where we can say that we have achieved control of drug trafficking in our ocean. We are very far from it. So, coming to also piracy and terrorism, as chair of the contact group, I can tell you one thing, that those countries and organizations which are working on board have spent billions of dollars. And I told them recently in Kenya that it's good that we spend billions of dollars to stop the pirates and put them in prison. But that ultimately we have to realize that if we want to fight piracy, we have to fight the need to be pirate, which means therefore investment, development, employment creation, and getting people to not to become pirates. My message didn't go through. I must tell you one thing. As chair of the organization, I proposed that part of those huge billions of dollars be used to allow Somalia and the neighboring countries to develop. We have to invest there. So this is just to tell you in a few words that we are, and believe me, I believe in what we are doing today. If not, I won't be here. I believe that Sagar, that OBOR, and the other initiatives make sense because we are moving from a global approach to development to a more regional approach to development. So I'm fully committed to it, but at the same time, it is my responsibility to share to you that the road ahead is challenging, but we can make it. But then we have to recognize that there are challenges which will have to be met in a courageous way. With those words, once again, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I wish once again to thank you all for having borne with me all through. Thank you.
I think Honorable Minister has made extremely important points and how Mauritius is tackling those. And of those 2-3 things which come to my mind straight away, one is the protection of the ecosystem. Most of us don't pay too much of attention. The impacts of climate change and the sustainable use of the ocean. So these are important, and whatever rules and regulations we make in the architecture, it is necessary to address these issues. Before I invite our next speaker, may I just make an announcement that at the end of the ministerial talks, there will be Q&A session. You are requested to visit our site, slido.ccm, and conference key, you type IOC 2018. In Ask Your Question column, please write down your name and the country. And your name will be announced, and then you can ask the question. Now it's my pleasure to invite His Excellency AHM Mustafa Kamal, currently the Minister of Planning of Bangladesh, to make his presentation.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed an honor for me to be here with all of you, the iconic personalities living in this planet Earth right at the moment. Before I entered into this room, I was thinking about something. You see, about 500 years back, the greatest philosopher of Japan, he said, I will never be lost if I don't know my destination. When I entered into this room, now it augmented my belief that I am never going to be losing my way because I know my destination and you are the coveted destination for me. So you are my source of inspiration. You are the source of inspiration for the whole world, people. And you have assembled here because you are great people. You have assembled here for certain causes. The causes is serving to humanity. So that is the reason I strongly believe that you will be successful in this program. And we should thank India Foundation and its constituents for organizing this very, very timely conference. I think it is the right time to convene a conference like this. Ladies and gentlemen, today we are here for fulfilling certain objectives. Firstly, we are here for a great cause, inter alia, along with other things, services to humanity, as I've said, which we wish to achieve by uplifting the marginalized people who are living, still living largely in the India Ocean region, as you are aware. So these people's life and living has to be uplifted, and this is the reason we are here. Secondly, we are here to find out ways and means as to how a meaningful regional architecture could be built in a structured way and as a structured entity, through the active cooperation, active engagement of the nation along with their institutions and citizens, ensuring a better life of the citizens of the region and beyond. Thirdly, we are here today to raise the hope and aspirations to the people of this region as to the fact that the last 500 years were meant for the West. Now the next 500 years is for the East. I can cite some examples about this. You see, as you see the current trend of economic phenomena and economic development here and there, you will find that global trade between North and South is far less than compared to the trade between South and South. So that is the reason the dictum was earlier look towards West. Now it has been transformed into look to the East. I'm sure you will agree on this proposition, and in that case, we should encash on it. Gentlemen, for everybody and for every nation, there is a timing for transformation of their own economies and own self. You see, opportunities come and it goes. When opportunities come in a man's life, it has to be encased. When opportunities come for a country, it has to be encased. If we look into the history, we see for most of the countries, none took more than 30 years for uplifting their economy and coming to a stage where from they can boast they are somebody economically big. So you see, this we have seen. See, I can cite some examples. For example, in the year 1601, when the East India Company was formed, on that day, the day East India Company was formed, on that day, India was #1 country in the world. It is just in 1601. India was occupying at that time 23% of the world GDP. So India continued to keep that position until 1820. In 1820, China became #1, and they retained their position until 1892. Since 1892, America is #1. But the prediction is, by the year 2032, China will be #1, America will be #2, and India economically will be #3 country, and Japan will retain their #4 position, and Indonesia will be #5. Now, what's about Bangladesh? We are also working very hard, and we are trying our best to catch up with others. You should be happy to note that, you see, 10 years back, we are economically rated to be 58th country in the world. In the last 10 years, we have toppled 16 countries, and then our position now is 42nd. We have a projection and an ambition and a target set by the Honorable Prime Minister, our dynamic Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, that by the year 2041, we should be one of the top 20 countries. So this is our ambition, and I'm sure this is gettable. As you could topple in 10 years, 16 countries, now, from now until 2041, we have 22 years. We'll have to topple every year one country, then 42 minus 22, it will be 20. So we'll be reaching within top 20 countries. This is our ambition. Now, for that, we have been receiving cooperation from our neighbors, and I hope this conference can help all of us who are lagging behind and who have the aspirations to move forward. It is your duty and responsibility to help us to fulfill our dreams and ambitions. My dear friends, we are here today for another reason, to have a strong and more meaningful regional architecture for all the nations of the Indian Ocean rim. Right at this moment, it has become more imperative for reasons well known to all of us. Today we see here and there trade barriers, restrictions, and various impediments on the way to free trade. And we are calling it trade war. In fact, it can be summed up in one word: anti-globalization. You see, if these sort of barriers exist, in that case, the whole world community will not be in peace. They can't plan for future, for moving forward. So it is very difficult. You see, in the 1990s, you have seen such thing was pursued once, and in that case, afterwards, it was said outmoded because it is coming in conflict with the rules of free trade, and that is why it was not very successful. And then what we have seen in 1929, between the years 1929 and 34, again, smooth, holy tariff act, it came into being. And America, about 20,000 items, they have imposed tariffs as much as 50% to save their farmers and to save their business. But what it transpired eventually we have observed that 66% of the world trade has gone down. So on a long-term perspective, these sort of things are not working anywhere. When the Cold War was over, the people of this planet was in peace for a long time, at least on economic arena, because we thought now everybody will be using their own capabilities and deliver their services, and they will prosper themselves. But again, I'm saying, on behalf of all of you, let us now resolve and find out ways and means how we can use this Indian Ocean concept. Indian Ocean rim, or the region, is a big one, as you have said. It is resourceful. It is a source of our inspiration. It is our pride. It is a social bondage among the people of this region. I think if you really, in a structured way, and having structured entities, if you try to, certainly, if you want to try to deliver the well-being of the people of this region, you will be successful. We will have no other choice. If the trade wars, which is now prevailing here and there, if it prolongs, it will bring in disaster to the entire world community. So I think time is ripe, time is matured. Now we should think of how to move forward. My dear friends, I strongly believe today we are also here to reaffirm the citizens, all of the nations of this region, that in their pursuit of moving forward in the fulfillment of their aspirations for a better living, they are not alone in their journey. If and when needed, for removing all sorts of restrictions and conflict on their ways, all other nations and the citizens shall also get engaged with them to drive away all the problems and obstacles and impediments. My dear friends, here the underlying objective of this conference, according to me, is to reiterate the fact that we are destined to work together. Here, I would like to take an opportunity to quote an African adage, quote, "If you want to walk fast, you walk alone. If you want to walk further, you must walk together," unquote. My dear friends, unfortunately, right at the moment, while you are talking about the cooperation between the people of Indian Ocean Rim, my country, Bangladesh, is passing through a difficult time, which caused by the influx of 1 million of Rohingya refugees from our neighboring country, Myanmar. At present, for the sake of humanity, the government of Bangladesh, under the leadership of our Honorable Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, has sheltered them for the time being, which we cannot continue for an indefinite period. You'll have to agree with us. On behalf of our people, my sincere request to all of you is to raise your voice so that the Rohingya refugees can back to their homeland with dignity and in a sustainable manner as early as possible. Excellencies, as the third largest, the Indian Ocean accounts for about half of the world's container shipments, 1/3 of the world's bulk cargo traffic movements, and 2/3 of the world shipments, and thus, today it has become one of the busiest and most critical maritime transportation links in the world. These have been talked yesterday and today also by all the speakers. This ocean nourishes the centuries-old littoral economic, social, and cultural community of 2 billion people all along the shores of Indian Ocean Rim. Moreover, 3/4 of the traffic is headed for destinations beyond the region, underlines that the Indian Ocean is the lifeline of our globalized world, and it will remain as such so long this earth remains in existence. Thus, the idea of Indian Ocean Conference, organized by India Foundation and by its constituents, can be one of the development and growth drivers for the economic emancipation of the economy of this region. This institute has the potential to ensure geographical security, to strengthen social cohesion, and to create everlasting brotherhood among the surrounding countries of this Indian Ocean Rim. I strongly believe that this kind of intergovernmental conference will create a new horizon of prospect, discourse of a beautiful planet and act as a motivation for the progress of mankind. My dear friends, the Indian Ocean is a huge economic resource. There could be no denying to this fact for all the nations coming under the Indian Ocean rim, provided it can be explored and exploited effectively and efficiently. Undoubtedly, this is a challenging task. In this aspect, I would again like to quote late Mr. APJ Abdul Kalam, the ex-president of Republic of India, as once he observed, God Almighty, quote, God Almighty has created ocean and its waves, but he has also endowed us with knowledge and wisdom how to win over such oceans and its waves. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to endorse Dr. Abdul Kalam's view that we will definitely win over the Indian Ocean along with its waves for the betterment of the humanity. Before I conclude, I would humbly request this conference to pledge their support for creating a vision of innovation for our future generation, to ensure a world of lasting peace, with universal security and prosperity for all based on equity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I wish the India Foundation all the best. Let our Indian Ocean act as an eternal source of inspiration for this planet and for everybody living in this planet. I'm thanking you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Excellency, for your very wide-ranging talk on the ocean and how it is to be used and what are the difficulties that you face as a country and how do we overcome that. Before I invite our last speaker of this session, let me just remind you that after the last speaker, the House will be open for questions and answers. Go to site slido.com, type the key IOC2018, and in the Ask Your Question column, please write down your name and country. You will be told when to ask the question. Gives me great pleasure to invite His Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmed Al Zaidi, the Minister of Climate Change and Environment of the United Arab Emirates.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, very good morning. I would like to begin by thanking and expressing my sincere appreciation to the government of Vietnam for the invitation and the warm hospitality that has been extended to us, and congratulate the organizers, the Diplomatic Academy of Vietnam and the India Foundations and other colleagues for the excellent organization of the Third Indian Ocean Conference. I'm delighted to be here with you today to share our thinking and hopes for the Indian Oceans, as well as some lessons from our experience in the United Arab Emirates. Ladies and gentlemen, this century, the Indian Ocean is set to become one of the world's most strategic bodies of the water. All the countries represented in the room today share proximately to the Indian Ocean, which for centuries has played a critical role as lifeline for many, from providing foods to trading goods to knowledge sharing and cultural development. Now more than ever, the Indian Ocean is at the center of the world, driving global economic growth and prosperity. With our distance getting closer than ever and relations stronger, we must work hand in hand to ensure peace and security for our shared prosperity in the region. Indeed, my country, the United Arab Emirates, is witnessing firsthand the emergence of the Indian Ocean. For example, the rising energy demand in the Indian Ocean region, particularly associated with China's and India's massive and continued economic growth, has resulted in increased energy supplies from the Gulf region to Asia through Indian Ocean shipping routes. This energy supply is now equal to more than half of the world's trade in petroleum transits. More broadly, exports from Asian economies are expected to rise from 17% in 2010 to 28% in 2030, further indicating the economic vitality of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, with this context, the importance of collaboration and cooperation among countries in the Indian Ocean is clear to us in the UAE. However, unless we establish effective cooperation, the greater connectivity will not necessarily mean more peaceful Indian Ocean. While international efforts have been effective in defeating piracy in the Western Indian Ocean, the UAE is really proud to be a major contributor to this effort. A number of maritime security risks and crimes persist, including human trafficking as well as weapons and drug trafficking. Also, as a major concern is the spread of extremist ideologies, which we must address with care. And as you know, the UAE has developed as a free trade hub for Asia, Africa, and Europe, and as a gateway to the Middle East. As such, the Indian Ocean covers a vital role in my country's economic diversification and the transformations plan. It is therefore crucial that Indian Ocean remains a truly global ocean for free trade, navigations, and cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, I also would like to highlight some of the important work that the UAE has been conducting to enhance the regional stability and cooperation. First is our commitment in addressing climate change and environmental sustainability. Today, we are consistently reminded of the negative impact of climate change, most notably the devastating hurricanes, floods, droughts, and heat waves that are increasingly affecting our lives and economies. There is a serious concern that without early action, the consequences could be devastating. That is why the UAE is leading the way by setting ambitious national climate plan to mitigate and adapt to climate change in cooperation with the key stakeholders and partners, including business. We are early adopters of renewable energy and home to the International Renewable Energy Agency, IRENA, that promotes renewable energy globally. We're also a member of the International Solar Alliance because we see investments in renewable energy as an opportunity. We have ambitious clean energy targets of 27% by 2021, 50% by 2050, of which 44% will be coming from renewables. We believe that smart investments, renewables, and sustainability will not only lead to a healthier planet, but it will also lead to more jobs, more industries, and more prosperity for our people. We're also supporting other developing countries, including countries in the Indian Ocean, with renewable energy deployments, with around $1 billion in grants and soft loans to over 30 countries in the last decade, because of the wide-ranging benefits they bring to all of us. Furthermore, as a coastal country, we are well aware of the importance of marine resources for economic developments and ecosystem services that they offer. We strongly believe in the concept of a blue economy. This is why we're working with our partners to ensure sustainable management of our fish and marine species, mitigating marine pollutions and establishing protected area. The Indian Ocean is a common resource to all of us, and healthy and safe oceans are key to various economic activities, as well as for food security in the long term. More broadly, the hosting of Expo 2020 in Dubai is a prime example of how the UAE is working to enhance cooperation among countries and creating platforms for knowledge share. This will be the first World Expo to take place in the Middle East and Africa, and the biggest expo yet. It will bring together more than 180 countries and nations and attract approximately 25 million visitors over 6 months. With 75% of visitors forecasted to be international, this expo will be more global than any other. The theme of Expo is Connecting Minds, Creating the Futures, with the opportunities, mobilities, and sustainability At its core, the Expo expected to push the boundaries for innovation solutions that will ultimately serve us all for a sustainable future. Through Expo, we want to trigger the new way of thinking and opportunities for collaboration globally, and one where sustainability is at the heart of the developments for a sustainable future for all. And last but not the least, the UAE will assume the 2-year chairmanship of the Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA, from the next year in October 2019, with the commitments to further boost the international cooperation in the Indian Ocean governance, security, and the economic architecture. We look forward to the deliberations of this high-level conference to further understand and develop ideas on how best to pursue such an objective. Again, thank you so much for hosting us, and I wish you all the best. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think the two very important points by the Honorable Minister. And one was that in the construct of IONS, is there a possibility of getting the Indian Ocean region governance or architecture in order? So that is one area that possibly the India Foundation will look at it from here. And the second point he made about the blue economy, which points us towards how do you use the oceans in a sustainable manner so that it keeps giving you the required results or required assets for a longer period of time. So that brings us to the end of our ministerial talk. Now the House is open for questions. Please remember to go to the site slido.com and type IOC 2018 and then ask your question. Please type your name and country. Bangladesh, Munshi Faisal Ahmad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Can you raise your hand? Sorry, sir, I can't see. Oh, okay, fine. Okay, right.
Because the microphone is below, so I'm not standing up.
Go ahead, sir.
Because there were no other askers for questions, so I thought I'll take the lead anyway. But my question is to the panelists that we see a lot of proliferation of various forums in this region. But most of these forums do not include everybody, all countries. They are, in many cases, exclusive clubs, like the Quad. And there are others, I'm not naming all of them. But how do we ensure that when we are creating all these exclusive clubs, how the other countries that are left out will be included? Because if we are not inclusive, then the purpose of this conference is not going to succeed. Thank you.
Out of the ministers, may I request anyone, sir, if you could kindly take this on.
When you take this conference, the India Foundation organizes it. They've had 3 editions so far, moved from country to country. I haven't seen a club in here. Been open to all the countries. So I think we will have to make use of forums like this, and and also like the Prime Minister Wickremesinghe said yesterday, we will have to have intra-session working groups that also include everybody and work on the way forward. That's my view. There are other panelists.
Anyone? Yes, sir.
I would like to add what His Excellency just said. The success of such platforms will bring the others. So we have to ensure that those platforms are achieving the main objectives of them, because with that, it's going to send the signal to bring on board the rest of the colleagues in the region.
Comes here? Okay. I don't see this, sir. Okay. Mr. Amit Vaikar? Where are you, sir? Okay.
The question was related to this very interesting and important point that His Excellency mentioned, and congratulations for this very nice economic progress that Bangladesh has done over the last 10 years. I'm very keen to understand what were the top 3 things or even the top 2 things that Bangladesh did so very well. And in this changing world order, do you see those 3 things going forward, or would they be different things that you would be doing to take Bangladesh forward in the ranking? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You see, Bangladesh, we are following 5-yearly plans, and we have also perspective plans on a long-term basis. By following the planning process, what we are doing, we are allowing incentives in various ways so that investment is there, job creation is there, and growth is there. In our country, the rural economy has flourished in an enormous way. I mean, compared to the past, in 10 years' time, the growth is visible everywhere, and the growth momentum is very strong. Our macroeconomic fundamentals all are in positive trajectory. Our revenue generation for the last 10 years, it was 19% on average. So, and GDP growth also is very big. Consistently, last 3 years, we are growing over 7%. And particularly last year, it is almost 7.78%. So our macroeconomic fundamentals are strong. Our reserve is very healthy. It can meet 9 months requirement. So it's we are in very comfortable zone. And other indicators also very positive. You know, we have many people are working outside, doing business elsewhere, and they're sending remittances everywhere. That is amounting to almost $15 billion. And 10 years back, our export was only $11 billion. Now it has gone up to $40 billion. So these are the signs how we are moving forward. So we are trying to deliver things in an inclusive way so that none is left out of the mainstream economy. And we are planning things even for sanitation and sending our boys and girls to school. It is amazing. It will be very difficult for others even to cope and to copy it. You see, in our country, for even 15 years back, our boys and girls were not going to school. It was less than 40%. Now it is almost 99%. Every of our boys and girls are going to school. And we observed they get themselves enrolled into the schools and then they drop out. In order to contain the dropout, government has taken an innovative scheme. Government is giving them free tiffins, free books. Everybody will get free books. And also for the needy boys and girls, for higher education, government offers scholarships. So we are attaching importance on education. Even 5 years back, our people, particularly boys and girls who are looking for a job in the factories, they were not technically sound. But now, 10% of our boys and girls who are going to schools, so who are going to jobs, they are technically sound. And we have a target by 2021, it will be 20%. And we are prioritizing, we are trying to transform education, bringing in qualitative education in place of conventional education. We are attaching importance to research and innovation. So as I have said, through education, we are moving forward. We have invested very hugely in education because we consider education is an investment for now and for the future. So that is the reason. I think this is one of the reasons. And second reason is this. Again, I'm saying, Bangladesh is a village Bangladesh. We have less than 29% people living in urban areas. Now, rest of the people are living in villages. Now, we are setting up over 100 special economic zones so that we can take the jobs to the doorstep of the needy workers. I mean, that is the way we are moving forward. We have planned things, you know, and then we have some other good areas which we have, I can say, these are yielding results and we are reaping benefits out of it. And health services, social safety networks. Under social safety networks, we have over 90 components, very active components. Anybody over the age of 65, he gets free food from the government. And anybody, any lady, if she is a widower, in that case, she gets benefit from the government. When anybody is expecting a baby, so to have enough nutrition intake.
Thank you, Mr.
So they are also being supported.
Thank you, Honorable. Okay. I think we have time for possibly just one more question. Admiral Columbage, sir.
Thank you, sir. I'm Admiral Columbage, Pathfinder Foundation, Sri Lanka. My question goes to Minister Sagala. Thank you, sir, for the wonderful presentation. I think we all agree that we need a regional architecture for Indian Ocean region. And I think Sri Lanka has an opportunity right now because we are the lead country in designing policy for maritime safety and security under the IORA. So may I kindly request you to share your thoughts, what are we trying to achieve through this leadership role that this small island nation can play in the Indian Ocean, getting this regional architecture going, sir?
We're a country that's just come out of a rough period. Post-war, we had a period where we missed a lot of opportunity. We missed opportunity because we didn't have the playing field level. So we started again. We started leveling the playing field, re-democratizing the country, and changing some of the laws that were required, and kickstarting not just the economy, but the lifestyles of the people, giving everybody a chance to raise their head, everybody that opportunity to raise their head. In this whole thing, economic stability is key for us. And we sit right there in the middle of the Indian Ocean. We see ships. When you stand, I represent this southern part of the country. When you go to the southern tip of the country and you look out towards the ocean, you see a ship sailing past probably 5 to 10 kilometers out from the coast every 5 minutes. All of that is world trade. All of that is moving about to try to make life better for somebody somewhere in the world. There's also those who try to slip through to try to make life miserable for some. So the key, I think, is like Sri Lanka wants to see economic stability and a good life for their people, the other countries in the world also strive for that, for their people. So the key is to ensure the good do well and the bad ones we take, we bring them under control and eliminate from the system using the laws. I think the rule of law is important. A laws-based process forward is important. And that is what, one is our position in the Indian Ocean. Then we are also a non-threatening country, a country that can reach out to a lot of countries and act as a middleman. So we're making use of that opportunity to play our role in the region and hopefully in the world.
Thank you very much, sir. This indeed will be the last question, Mr. Lim from China. His question is that how can BRI initiative can better connect and contribute to the development of Indian Ocean region? Mr. Lim? Okay, yes, sir, go ahead. You can re-ask your question.
Yes, how can the Belt and Road Initiative better connect and contribute to the development of the Indian Ocean region?
May I request you to make a comment on this?
Actually, this is a question I want to raise to the speaker. Thank you.
If you allow me.
Yeah, okay.
You know, the question has just been put of an all-inclusive approach. The question came from Bangladesh, that we need to, in fact, when we come to regional integration, we have to be open and to be all-inclusive. And we also said one thing, that whether it be the Road and Belt Initiative or the Sagar Initiative, they are both initiatives that are planned for China and for India also to contribute in the development of the region. And this is probably where we have to be very careful because we are dealing with large countries. I come from a very small country, and I think my friend also from Sri Lanka. So we are very careful when we speak of opening up our doors, in the sense that we have lived through what I would call Western tyranny for long. We have lived in this environment of Western tyranny, and we would not like now that we have an Eastern tyranny that shows itself and try to conquer. So I think your question is good, but it should be done with the total respect of your partner. I believe in it, and I think that without this total respect, this inclusive aspect, this win-win situation, projects like Sagar and Obo might face stiff resistance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Now we'll, before we break for tea, I have an honorable task to do. Yeah. The Director, India Foundation, Alok Bansal, may I request you to kindly present the mementos to our honorable speakers. Excellency Sagala Ratnayaka, Minister of Sri Lanka. Excellency Sitana Lakshmi Naraidu, Minister from Mauritius. Excellency AHM Mustafa Kamal, our Minister from Bangladesh. Excellency Dr. Thani bin Ahmad Al Zaidi, our Minister from United Arab Emirates. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause to our ministers who have really given a very wide perspective. And we break for tea and reassemble at 10:55. And please bring your name cards to put on the table. It's all lying outside. So wherever you're seated, you can put your name tallies. Thank you.